Hi everybody, welcome back to the course. Today we're going to look at a new section, and that's section 3, which is all about structuring the essay. In band descriptor terms, this is all about coherence and cohesion. And we're going to begin by looking at cohesive devices and referencing, or how to achieve flow in your writing. Let's begin by asking the question, what are cohesive devices? In the band descriptors, they obviously point them out. They say for band 7 that you need to use accurate and appropriate cohesive devices with not too much overuse or underuse. But what good is that if we don't know what cohesive devices are? So, cohesive devices are the words and phrases which link your sentences and the clauses within your sentences together. They link the ideas between separate sentences and clause together. So really, cohesive devices create flow. I want you to read an extract now from a Model Task 2 essay and mark what you think the cohesive devices are. Identify the cohesive devices I've used in this paragraph. One of the main drawbacks of driving a car is the amount of pollution it causes. This is because the fumes from car exhaust contain chemicals which pollute the atmosphere. As a result, people who live in places with many cars, like cities, may suffer from respiratory-related illnesses. Furthermore, air pollution has a negative impact on a global scale. To illustrate, the polar ice caps are melting as a consequence of global warming, to which air pollution contributes. So, in this paragraph, what are the cohesive devices I've used? This is because. As a result. Furthermore. To illustrate, and as a consequence of. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cohesive devices being used in this paragraph. And you can see how they all link back to the previous sentences before them. So we're linking ideas here. This really gets to oils the wheels of the paragraph. It just increases that flow in a dramatic way. And so what I've got on this slide is a table full of cohesive devices that you can use in your own essays. We're going to use these cohesive devices, the purposes, such as begin an opinion, describe a result, give a reason, give an example. You're going to use these more than once. So it's important that we have a variety of different cohesive devices so that you don't repeat yourself. It's a very bad idea to write, for example, twice in one paragraph. It's a bad idea to write, for example, twice in one essay. You won't need to. You have a number of different ones here. For example, to illustrate, for instance, to illustrate this point. Okay? So you should never have to repeat a cohesive device. It would be a good idea here to pause the video and to take a screenshot of this table, or perhaps even write it down to help you memorize the devices themselves. And on this next slide, we have even more useful cohesive devices for different purposes. Here we've got clarifying a point, linking ideas, switching arguments, and making another point. Okay, so lots of different cohesive devices that you can use to improve that flow in your essay. Again, pause the video, take a screenshot, print it out, and try experimenting with these cohesive devices to see if you can improve that flow in your essay. Perhaps you've been struggling to achieve flow in your essay. This is how you would remedy that. So let's look at cohesive devices in use. Now, using the cohesive devices we've looked at on the past 2 slides in the table, I want you to try yourself to change this paragraph to make it sound more coherent, more cohesive, and more fluent. A disadvantage of prisons is their arguably luxurious conditions. Inmates are given televisions to watch, video games to play, and expensive sports facilities to use. This does nothing to deter the criminals from committing crimes once they are released. This pleasant environment requires a great amount of money to be maintained. The taxpayer, whose taxes pay for the upkeep of these prisons, is left out of pocket in order to keep prisoners entertained in their cells. Just as a side note, a little bit of extra vocabulary for you here. To be out of pocket means to have lost money. So that might be something you can include, especially if you're doing the general training module, as it's a quite idiomatic language. So what I want you to do then is to see if you can use the cohesive devices we've looked at on the past 2 slides to modify this paragraph, to make it more fluent, to make it more cohesive. You can remove words and add words, expressions, phrases, but what we're trying to do here is just improve the coherence and cohesion of the paragraph itself. Okay, so pause the video now and see if you can have a go at this exercise. Okay, if you're ready, let's have a look at how I've modified this paragraph. Okay, so firstly, one disadvantage of prisons is their arguably luxurious conditions. For example, inmates are given televisions to watch, video games to play, and expensive sports facilities to use. This is a problem because it does nothing to deter the criminals from committing crimes once they are released. Moreover, this pleasant environment requires a great amount of money to be maintained. As a consequence, the taxpayer, whose taxes pay for the upkeep of these prisons, is left out of pocket in order to keep prisoners entertained in their cells. As you can see, every cohesive device that's been used here has a purpose. It either introduces a point, it introduces an example, it explains a reason for your previous idea, introduces another point, it introduces a result of the previous idea. They're all referring back to previous sentences, okay, previous ideas. And that really creates a well-developed argument that is also very fluent and cohesive. One side point to make here is you should not overuse cohesive devices. This paragraph works because every cohesive device serves a purpose and improves the paragraph as a result. But if you're using cohesive devices all over the place, that will really look very forced, and it in fact has the opposite of effect of reducing the fluency of the paragraph, reducing the flow, because it looks it's hard to read when it's like that. So make sure you're only using about 4 or 5 cohesive devices per paragraph. Okay, now let's have a look at referencing, which is very similar to cohesive devices, but less so with the vocabulary and the expressions, and it's usually single words. We'll have a look at what it means now. And we'll have a look at what it means by comparing 2 paragraphs. So I want you to look at these 2 paragraphs and decide which one looks more fluent. One reason sports stars deserve high salaries is that the sports stars set good examples for children. It is because they show children that if the children believe in themselves, the children can achieve anything. If top athletes didn't do it, then the children would lose out on a role model. It is why successful sports professionals should earn more money than other professionals. So what do you think? Does this sound fluent? Let's look at the next one. One reason sports stars deserve high salaries is that they set good examples for children. This is because they show children that if they believe in themselves, they can achieve anything. If top athletes didn't encourage this idea, then these children would lose out on a role model. This is why successful sports professionals should earn more money than other professionals. So which one? The first paragraph or the second paragraph? Which one looks more fluent? Which one looks more cohesive? Hopefully, you've all picked the second paragraph. Let's look at why this is. So, as you can see here, we added some words and we took away other words. Let's look at the words in bold. So one reason sports stars deserve high salaries is that they set good examples for children. So if we removed the second sports stars and just added the pronoun they, this reduces repetition and increases the flow. This is because they show children. So this is because this refers to the previous idea about setting good examples. How do they set good examples? Well, this is how. This is because, okay? Instead of it, this is referencing back. It's often much better to use a this than an it's pronoun. If they believe in themselves, they can achieve anything. Again, we're reducing the repetition. We're not repeating children, but instead we use they. If top athletes didn't encourage this idea, here we've kind of had to modify the entire section. Instead of didn't do it, we've had didn't encourage this idea. But it's necessary because encourage, first of all, is more accurate. It's a better collocation with idea. But the important thing here is looking at the this instead of the it. So this idea, the previous idea that we've just spoken about, we're referencing back again. Then these children which we've spoken about, again referencing, would lose out on a role model. This is why instead of it is why. I'm not going to keep repeating myself. You can see how it works. This is why successful sports professionals should earn more money than other professionals. So now you know a bit more about cohesive devices and referencing. Try experimenting with them. Try seeing if you can use a few more in your essays. If you're struggling with flow, then this is probably the fastest way to remedy that problem.